My name is Dr. Rick Saguil.
And action. Hey, Jay had a... This is Kirk again. And action. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Rick, and this is a 2-for-1 minute clinic. I had a question from Brandon about finding your purpose in life, or his purpose in life. And I had a question from a colleague, Dr. Mike, about feeling burned out. And I just did a video on burnout, so I'll put the link down below. I termed it as Burnout Part 1. I guess technically this can be Burnout Part 2, but check out the link because it'll give you some basic ideas about what and how to define burnout. But if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. Burnout versus purpose in life. And that's what we as humans have to project to. The difference that between us and animals is that we have a forebrain, a very large forebrain, and that gives us the advantage of contemplation and problem solving. Now, I mean, a mouse can problem solve how to get through a maze and how to eat, when to eat sometimes. A fish can even do that, to be quiet in the wintertime and eat when things are plentiful. But this thing about finding your purpose in life, I found that in my aspirations, because I'll address this with regards to Brandon's question. He had a question about, where do I go? And Brandon's a rather young guy, and he is trying to find his way. He's very knowledgeable, but he sought advice on what to do. And like any coach, I gave him a couple of Q&A questions about what's your hobby, what's your love, do you have any interests? And I think that it's up to the individual to find that. But in some cases, I can help framework how to find it faster. Because there'll be some, I gave the example that my mom would always say, you have to be a doctor. You have to be a doctor all the time, because it's a job that will always have availability anywhere in the world. And little did she know about medical insurance now. And so that brings me to the second question with Dr. Mike, burnout. My colleagues are experiencing spectacular amounts of burnout, poor sleep, decreased interest in fun things, rocky marriages, kind of butting heads with kids, and that could be a physician or non-physician, can be anybody. But I think when you get burned out, you might have thought that this was your purpose in life, but it's like, this sucks. So there's a fine line between the two. I'm going to try to outline what to do once you have defined that you're burned out. And again, it's down below. So the way I kind of, I'll use myself as an example. So no question, I got burned out from being a doctor after 10 years back in 2005. Mostly because, I'm blaming the administration, but probably my fault for not seeing it coming. As far as being an employee. I think that one of the things in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this pyramid that I have behind me, and I'll talk about that in a second, is that humans or higher levels of cognitive functioning will always seek something, just like Maslow had pointed out, until you get to the point of self-actualization, or really finding your way to serve the rest of the universe. And I know it sounds altruistic, but honestly, that's what I think is ingrained into our DNA. We're hardwired into our brains, because as a species, we have to contribute to the species to get the species to evolve. So that's how we've got to this point. Regardless of the wars and the conflict, I think as a species, what separates us from the other animals, that forebrain and the contextualization or the abstract thinking, is that if we continue to use that part of the brain, we will make sure that we exist for a long time. So the answering of Maslow's pyramid is basically breaking our needs into 5 different things. And I thought that this is a great way to, number one, take care of guiding someone as far as finding their purpose in life, and also guiding someone to get out of that burned out feeling. It's never too late. And that's where I was at in 2005. I decided just to cut my losses and become a full-time dad, moved to Florida, which I was fine with, and I was very good as a full-time dad, but I was lacking that, not self-fulfillment, but I was lacking the interaction with my patients. I longed for that. So even if my mom kept on prodding me to become a doctor, and I always wanted to be an athlete, and here I am, I'm an athlete again, more so than a doctor, truthfully. I'm a coach. And I think it has evolved to that point because of reaching what Maslow had thought of back in the 1940s as far as self-actualization. So I might as well speak about that now. So this is the pyramid. And Maslow breaks it down into 5 different things. The basis of the pyramid is the physiologic needs. And that's essentially to take care of your need for water, air, food, and rest. And if you don't have that, then you usually wind up being super hungry, short of breath, dehydrated, or frazzled because you're not getting rest. And those are so basic that even a child can figure that out. So basic, it would mean like if you're hungry, you're going to search for something, and until you take care of that need, none of these other things will be attainable. So going home super hungry, you're going to be hangry. You're going to be angry and hungry, and you're not going to want to interact with anybody or take care of safety until these basic needs are met. So Maslow, he's a psychologist, but he went on to say you don't have to hit each of these 100% before advancing to the next one to become fulfilled at the top, but the majority has to be hit. So we always have to worry about these basic premises for taking care of the physiologic needs. Once that's established and you're good with eating and maintaining hydration and sleeping properly and keeping warm, then safety is a concern. And safety would be in the form of shelter or stability, like a job. So, and that's sometimes easy to attain. Sometimes it's hard to attain, especially with what's available in your environment, what's available with the economy, what you can afford. So once you have attained that, then usually there's this touchy-feely part here. Loving and belonging is important. And I think once you have these two down pretty good, then the loving and belonging is always going to be sought after, relational. You want to, every human, I learned this from Dr. Simon and Dr. Chopra at the Chopra Center. Everyone wants to be recognized. There always has to be, it's self-fulfilling to be praised. It's a nice feeling. And when you're praised, just like an act of kindness, you feel good because hormones are released. That's the biophysical explanation for it. But there is always going to be this part. So when I go out into a hike, I am solo by myself and I'm with nature. And theoretically, I am not interacting to get the love, but I am interacting with nature. And there is something to be said about the happiness you can get when you have a sense of belonging to a group, belonging to a job force, belonging to a family. So even if it doesn't mean natural family or biological family, sometimes that belonging will also equate to safety, like in animals. When there's predators and prey do better when they are in a group. And there is a sense of love, but I'm not sure that animals can experience that. They probably do, but humans can contextualize that better. So after establishing some form of belonging, then we get to the esoteric stuff, esteem. And this is what definitely separates humans from other animals. So esteem, when everything is stable here, we always try to get a sense of power, recognition, and an accomplishment. So in my case, it would be attaining the level of MD, or the level of integrative medicine doctor, or the level of acupuncturist, or the level of yoga instructor on top of everything. So it's kind of nice, reassuring, and self-fulfilling or satisfying to have that. And sometimes the community you belong to you'll gain that from the community. If anything, you will know that I've made it to this pinnacle, nobody else has done it, and this is cool. Just like me hitting Angel's Landing in Zion. I took 2 people of my excursion, but I don't remember what year it was. And we know other people were up there, but just to say that you attained that summit where other people have stood over the last few decades is kind of cool, because not every human can do that. And hopefully in 3 years, when I hit Everest Base Camp or the emergency room there, there'll be a crap load of other hikers and people summiting, but it's still a fraction of what your average human has experienced, and that's just so fulfilling. Well, to me, it feels great. Or a marathon. Now, about 20 years ago, there's very few people who do marathons. Now there's everybody that does marathons, but still, that's only a small segment of the population. So the fact that you break the tape, even if you're the slowest, and I was one of the slowest in the 2009-2010 marathon in Chicago. I think I came in the last 300 out of 40,000. But still, I broke the tape and I said I ran the entire marathon, which is kind of cool, with an injury, with no training, as a yoga instructor. Because not that many people, I'm sure a lot of people could do it, but the fact that not that many humans have tried it is kind of cool. And again, it makes me feel good inside. If it makes me feel good inside, I want to continue on in the next part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that would be the self-actualization part. That is definitely touchy-feely, because after you attain all these other things, the self-satisfaction, the recognition, then, and it's hard to explain, but then there'll come a time when you say to yourself, you know what? I'm built for a different purpose, or I'm built for this, but I want to do more and give back. And when you get to that level, you'll know, but when you get to that level, it is so satisfying. But going back to Brandon's question, what's my purpose in life and how do I find it? When you hit the top of the pyramid, obviously you'll know. And how do you get there? How do you find it? I think it's by testing the waters. So in hiking, we have a summit that we go to, and there might be several trails to get to that summit, and you sometimes have to test it out. If you don't have a compass, you'll go up a path that you think is a footpath, and it turns out to be an animal track, and then you have to go backwards, start all over again, like a maze, like a mouse going through a maze. You kind of just find out which direction by trial and error until you get to the top. Sometimes that is the way you attain self-actualization to the point of full satisfaction, but it's trial and error. And you know, most of us will live to about 70. Those of us who are lucky enough to live to 90 will have more than enough chances to attain this. Even if you're in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I still think it's worth, the satisfaction is still worth attaining that or going for the goal. Because when you do self-actualize and you reach that point of full potential, the beauty is that you'll actually see other people fill out their base and move onward in the triangle, and that's where, or the pyramid, and that's where that built-in part of the brain, the hardwired brain or the DNA, is useful for the species, because once you reach the top, you will help other people get to their basis and climb to the top as well. So the one thing I wanted to throw in as my part of this is that this pyramid is very important to understand. And if you are trying to find a purpose in life, if you establish and move up or stay at a level for a while until you're secure, then move to the next level, search for the next level, it gives you a framework of what to look for. But the problem is, a lot of times, if this is too much, if you're hanging out here too much, you will not be able to progress to this part. If you can't, I do believe Maslow had a point. You can't get to this part, can't get to this part by skipping out on the loving. So you have to, like if I have somebody with divorce, and that's very prominent in American society, this part will be unstable. And theoretically, you can't jump from physiological needs, safety needs, to esteem by skipping out on the loving part. You can't go to self-actualization until you establish some form of recognition. you can't go anywhere if you haven't satisfied a shelter. So homeless can't get to that point because they're always stuck with shelter. But depends on the homeless person. Even a box might be shelter for them, and then they can go on to a loving community of either pantries or temples, churches. So it really depends on where you are in life and how you interpret this. But the idea is that there's always a progression. It's not just that you're stuck with your job. And that's the other thing is, I do believe that even if you've attained an MBA, an MD, a DMD, MD, MD, PhD, you've become president of a company, I still think that there's a directional way to progress if you are stuck. Doesn't mean you have to go all the way to the bottom, but you have to figure out where on the, I'd say using the pyramid, where the imbalance occurred and try to attack that. And that's the beauty of having a coach to guide you. So there are coaches that help with the physiologic part, athletic trainers, physical therapists. There are coaches that help with the safety part, financial advisors, guys from ADT that come in and assess your guy that takes care of the brakes in your car, firearm safety. Then there's a loving belonging part that might have to have a PhD counselor, psychologist to help you design and get comfortable with that part, especially guys. Guys don't really express themselves, and I find that there's a lot of pent-up anger, which sometimes leads to not being able to progress because you can't relate to women or children, and we at a late age have to learn this because we didn't do it when we were younger. I think that's a male problem, a testosterone issue, but there's always help for that. And it's never too late to learn, because everybody else in the family that's dependent on you, not only in the family but also at work, with whatever work you do, the industry is going to suffer because you're not into it 100%, and then you can't progress on. So the basics of what I would say are, when you lack any, if you have cravings all day, you need a coach to guide you as far as how to use different nutrition practices. If you haven't found stability in a job, you might need a financial advisor, as I mentioned. So that if you can pull in different coaches to help you, I think that would be the beauty, but working up the pyramid would be important. And again, even if you're 50 to 60 years of age, there's never a problem. That's why it's called the second career, because at a certain level, it's like, I don't like this. I'm going to go to do something else. I think it's always, there are always college degrees and classes or medical school classes where there's going to be an older person that's starting all over again, but that person probably has the wisest problem-solving skills compared to all the younger people. So again, this is just an idea of how to go about finding a purpose without getting burned out. That's what I would do as far as, this is how I coach my guys. You can't just be pragmatic. Pragmatic is just being like a doctor, taking care of colds and coughs, taking care of cholesterol numbers, taking care of weight. And if you do that, I think that's safe, but you will miss out on the spiritual aspect. That's why a lot of my docs get burned out, because they don't understand that. Or their patients might have good cholesterol, good blood pressure, but the patient is totally burned out and needs the spiritual part. But then again, on the flip side, I've been to yoga teacher trainings twice now. It's 400 hours. And sometimes just teaching yoga, or going out there and saying, I want to teach yoga because I think it's good, and the community will benefit from it. And now, teaching a class, 2 classes a day, $10 a person, that's not going to be able to, in the majority. I don't mean to downplay my value for yoga instructors, but it's tough to make a living based on those kind of numbers. So you can't just think altruistic, but then again, you can't just think concrete. So I think it's a combination of both, and that's where I think Maslow really got it. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of how to find your dharma or your purpose in life. Also gives you a little idea of how to get out of the burned out portion. If you have ways that you have found that got you out of the burnout part, or coaches that you've relied on, please put them in the comments down below. Otherwise, I guess I might as well drop the bomb if you're watching up until this point. I too am feeling burned out. So I am going to take a sabbatical away from medicine. 3 months probably. My last day at Bartlett is going to be January 31st, and then I'm going to finish writing my book. I tried to do it over the Christmas vacation. I got some of it accomplished, but I have to refine it and talk to my editors. And I'm going to try to find myself, because I think that I have to reach this point, but I have to morph it a little bit. I do have a sense of belonging. I definitely have the other two taken care of, but I just, recognition, fine, I guess that's there, but I just don't feel that I've really reached the direction I want to go to, so I'm going to have to do something different. And I think that soul searching is important. So if you're a patient of mine, I'm sorry you're hearing it now. You'll probably call the office, and it's going to be, the information is going to be released on Monday. Today is the 4th, 5th, 6th, so January 6th. Now, if you have, I'm still going to be active with coaching. I'm going to be finding or getting I'm going to attain my NASM certification for personal training, and I think I always wanted to be an athlete, so it will be enough to keep me busy for the time being. I'll probably do some just thinking about how I'm going to stick with the safety, because I still have to pay the bills for the 2 kids I have in school. I'll probably do some pickup work in immediate care centers, but that's 10-minute visits, and can't do too much with regards to lifestyle change with 10-minute visits. It's just colds, coughs, fractures, cuts, boils, and stuff like that, which it serves the community but doesn't serve me, except for the fact that it gives me stability here. And again, I got to keep that. I got physiology down. I have to keep safety going. Loving and belonging, the self-esteem will come after that. So sorry you had to hear about it this way. For those of you who don't see me on a regular basis as a patient, subscribe down below, because I'm going to be hallmarking my journey with video vlogging about how I find my self-actualization. So don't freak out. I'll be back. And hey, as an addendum, on January 11th, I'll be hosting the Ignite Your Life conference, or the Ignite Your Life Summit, over at Advocate Sherman. I'll put the invite as far as a clickable link for your tickets. If those of you who want to do an excursion, talk about summiting, I'm going to take a group, see Dr. Rick Hiking Excursions on Facebook. I'm taking a group up to 14,000 feet at Gray's and Torrey's Peak in Colorado, August 28th. So if you don't have anything to do, or you needed a summit to get your ass moving and get your diet rock solid from January until August, come join me. Even if you don't make it to the summit, I think that being in a group where we're really trying to scramble to this highest level that we can attain, which not too many humans can get to. A lot of people will be there, but just think of it, the masses have never got to 14,000 feet. It'll be an attainment, but come to the Ignite Your Life Summit. Click the tickets down below, and I'll see you there.